Welcome back to the Rock and Blues Experience. And coming up today, we are going to be in the company of one of the busiest and most in demand of musicians. Joel Hoekstra begins the year preparing for the release of a fourth album from his band, Joel Hoekstra's 13. It's called From the Fade, and it will be available from February the 27th this year. It's going to be a very busy year for him as well, because on the horizon, as you will hear, there are new albums coming from Revolution Saint and the supergroup called Iconic. Now, before we get there, just a reminder, you can catch up and watch all of the content we've produced over time over on the website at www.therockandbluesexperience.com, plus on the YouTube channel at The Rock and Blues Experience, and you can interact as well on the Facebook pages, also at The Rock and Blues Experience. Now, we are also at the beginning of a new year, so let's take a look at who and what is making the front page of the music press for January and February of 2026. Well, also this time of year, the live calendar is filling up. Plenty of great live shows on the horizon. One such is Smith Kotzen's upcoming tour. Adrian Smith and Richie Kotzen bringing the band back on the road to Europe in February. And Richie was on the show a while back when we were talking about the release of his excellent solo album called Nomad. And during that feature, we went back to one of the big early breaks in his then burgeoning career in the early 1990s when he joined Poison, and they recorded what many critics said at the time and still believe to be the best album the band had produced. It was called Native Tongue.
And so the songs that are on that album, there's a couple songs on there that I had written previously that I brought in and he embellished upon, Stand being one of them. Fire and Ice being another,
which is the huge hit. Wasn't when he first heard those songs? It was at your audition, wasn't it? There was a few problems at the audition. You had a problem with the amp.
Oh my God!
Smoke coming out of the amp.
I had a 50 watt. I still have it too. It works now, but I had a 50 watt Marshall. It wasn't a plexiglass panel, but it was right when they switched off of it. So it still had that same kind of sound, the 4 input. It's a great sounding amp. And I showed up with it and immediately smoke started coming out. And then they wanted me to play some of their songs, obviously. And the truth of the matter was, I was pretty cocky back then at my age. As not cocky, but confident. So when it came time to learn the songs, I don't think I even picked up the guitar. I think I played it. I was living in LA and I had a place and I played the song on a loop, the 4 songs that they wanted me to learn. I played them on loop and I could hear, I know what this is. That's A, that's G, D, there's a riff there. I know what I can tell with that. I might have picked up the guitar once or twice just to reconfirm. And so I walked in the audition feeling like, I know this. I got to hear it on the radio. I know how it goes. Well, once I get in there and start playing it, I'm like, oh shit, that ain't where the bridge goes. There's another verse here, I start messing up. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really fucking up this audition. The amp went up. I don't know their music properly. So then he says to me, well, you got some originals. And the way I remember is I played him Stand, because I had that was written. That song was written. And then when I got in the band, he wanted to change up the lyrics and the verses. And so we did. And then I think he and I added a bridge to it coming into the solo. But that, chorus, verse, I had my own set of lyrics that I think I use my lyrics to this day when I do the song. Or maybe I use a combination. Who cares? Who knows? But anyway, that was played. And then I played him the verse and chorus to what became Fire and Ice. I'm convinced that was the moment that he was able to go to the other two guys and convince them that I was the guy. Because I don't think they were convinced at that point. I think they said, who is this fucking clown? The amp exploded. He doesn't know our songs. Get him out of here. Yeah. But Brett went to bat for me, and then I remember I was rehearsing with him for 2 weeks, learning stuff, writing, messing around, and I didn't know if I was in the band or not. And here's the other bit I'll tell you that I never told this, which is very funny. We're sitting. They had their own room out in the valley, and we're sitting there. And Brett starts saying, all right, well, let's have a conversation. Now, I don't know it, but he's going to tell me that I have the gig. But I don't know that. He starts talking, and the way he's talking, I start anticipating that he's going to tell me it was a nice lunch and I'll see you later. So I interrupt him. I say, hey, listen, I said, I know I'm probably not your guy, So I start getting ready to pack my shit up and leave. And he goes, no, wait. He says, that's not what I'm saying. He says, what I'm saying is, how do you feel like about headlining arenas and making millions of dollars? That was his quote to me. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, huh? He goes, you got the gig. You're in the fucking band. That's what he's finally. He's like, you're in the fucking band. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, then, everybody hugged everybody, and that was it.
You can watch that in full on the website or on YouTube, and check out Richie's website as well for details of the upcoming tour and ticket availability. Moving on, Joel Hoekstra's 13 released that fourth album, From the Fade, this February. And once again, teaming up with Joel is a real A-list cast, and it includes Vinny Appice, Derek Sherinian, Jeff Scott Soto, Tony Franklin, and Girish Pradhan. I met up with Joel from his home this week in New York, and we looked ahead to the release and back over his career. And after, of course, the recent retirement of David Coverdale and Whitesnake, we looked back and shared a few memories of his time with that legendary British blues rock band. I wanted to start with what was something of a poignant moment from the last few weeks, and it was MTV closing down. Now, that might not mean much to, today's generation, but this is what got you into the music way back when, in the early 80s, AC/DC, Back in Black, Angus Young. So it's a bit of history that's been erased.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it had kind of lost its purpose, but initially, MTV's that was a cool thing growing up as a kid. We didn't have access to the artists other than getting Circus or Hit Parade or Magazine or whatnot if you were into the 80s bands like I was. And so MTV, as you mentioned, in the very early days of that, they didn't have a whole lot of videos. And so seeing AC/DC on there and just kind of waiting for that video to come back on and then looking at Angus Young and going, that's who I want to be. I want to be that guy. Now, I didn't know I was going to be about a foot taller and not look anything like him. But nonetheless, I appreciated his showmanship and energy. And that's what brought me into playing guitar, Back in Black specifically.
It was like a seismic revolution, wasn't it? You'd rush home from school, there was all sorts of programming on. You could see there was live bands, as we went on. You had the headbangers, but it gave you a sense of belonging, really.
Yeah, I would say I stayed connected to watching videos on there as long as they did it.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout that entire period, really, all the way from the beginning through when they kind of stopped showing music videos on MTV. It's a bit odd, but okay. I think MTV was great. It exposed a lot of really blew a lot of bands up, gave bands their start and beginnings, and just that mass exposure of television.
So after MTV, for you, came the red Electra Westone guitar, didn't it?
Yeah.
They had some great model names, by the way, back then. The Pantera, the Raider, the Spectrum, the Thunder, and the Villain. So what did you have?
I don't even know the model name of that guitar. To me, so the story is when I went to my parents after seeing AC/DC on MTV, told my parents I wanted to play guitar, and so my stepmother had an acoustic, and they said, start on that, prove that you want to do it, and we'll get you an electric, because I wanted an electric, of course, right away. And then I was with a teacher who was teaching me to read the notes on the high E, and I was like, man, but you know how it was back then, man. You just looked at these guys like they were gods, and like maybe that's only attainable through some kind of magic or something, these rock stars playing like that. And so I was just about to quit, really. And I went over to my friend's house, and he had an electric guitar, plugged it in, and started playing Crazy Train, and my mind just, exploded. I said, where'd you learn that? And he said, oh, you have to go to my teacher. He teaches rock stuff. And so that was
at the Mall. The shopping mall.
I went in there to that teacher, and he said, yeah, you should get him an electric, to my parents. And so got me an electric guitar, but I had to still prove that I was going to play to get an amp. That was the funny part. Yeah. So he gave me this tip about plugging into the auxiliary input of the stereo. The next thing you knew, the home stereo, no distortion on it whatsoever, was all the way up with me playing the riff to Paranoid 10 million times, because it was probably the only thing I knew. That was the first riff that I learned was Paranoid.
So did that guitar got the debut in that first gig that you did at the talent show at the Eisenhower High School? Because that's where you went to school. That was what you were playing back then?
That is where the drummer from my first band went to school, and I was no longer playing that guitar. I had moved on to my second guitar, which is a Kramer Beretta. Very, very, Eddie Van Halen, single pickup, EMG, Floyd Rose. So that felt very fancy and high tech compared to the Electra Westone. So sadly, the Electra Westone is no longer with me. I mean, I had this question earlier today. I sold it to get the Kramer Beretta, essentially. I mean, we were not at the stage where we were going to buy multiple guitars yet. It was kind of like I'd been playing a couple of years, and it was obvious I was playing all the time, but it was like, let's, sell that one and get you a new one. But while I was in a period in time during the 1990s, I was back in the Chicago area where I grew up teaching a lot of guitar. The area where we sold that guitar, some new student came in and they had this red Electra Westone, and I was like, that might be my first guitar. And I looked at the frets, and the frets were all just worn to. I went, that's got to be my first. I mean, because who else plays one of those guitars that much? Isn't that's like the guitar nobody plays, right? When they own it, right? So I just thought that's got to be my first guitar, but there was no real way to verify that. So it remained with that kid, and that's the last I've seen of it. It was back then, but I still do have that second guitar, the Kramer Beretta, which I played my first gig with, as you mentioned, at Eisenhower High School at the talent show. The drummer went to Eisenhower, which was like, specifically like Blue Island, Illinois, very very southwest suburban. It's like where Enough's Enough is out of too. Oddly enough, if you know Chip. He was always a cool guy and came out to our gigs when we were younger because the drummer was friends with them, and so that was a fun thing for us. He was a star, and we were just kids.
Do you know what? There is a trait when you talk and you interview musicians over the years, and I've spoken to hundreds and possibly thousands of them over time, you always find that there's something that runs through all of them. And they all started playing with older guys in their teens, sneaking into bars when they were the youngest guy in the band. And that was you as well, wasn't it? With
Yeah. We did we had a cool all ages club in our area that you could play regularly. So we did a lot of shows there, but there was a lot of that stuff where we'd book a gig in a bar and they would have to say, I was the youngest one in the band. And so they'd say, look, our guitar player is only 16 or whatever. And, and they would just say, back then things were a little looser, and they'd say, just get him in the back. And then, as soon as you guys are done, like he's just got to get out. That's all. He can't just be like hanging out. So things were a little looser. I'd go in and do the gig in the bar at 16 or 17. Get myself.
Do you remember what you were doing on the 30th of September 1983?
30th of September 1983. No.
That was your first gig. Your first live show at the Chicago Pavilion. Iron Maiden on the Peace of Mind tour with Quiet Riot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So, wow, that's amazing you looked that up. So that's 1983.
83, yeah.
So I was 12. Yeah. My mom let me go to an Iron Maiden concert at 12.
You see, this is the thing here. You had cool parents. I mean, I've got to say, if I'd have actually broached the subject with mine, is it okay if we go and see Iron Maiden? I mean, it wouldn't have even been a discussion, But parents in the US seem to be a little bit more relaxed than the repressed parents that we had over in Europe.
I mean, I can't comment to that overall. That's obviously we're speaking in generalities with that. I mean, I think my parents were, probably pretty relaxed about all the arts and everything, being classical musicians and whatnot. Sure. And so it was just, he's just going to see a rock band. And I was going with a friend, and a friend from church at that. So that'll show you how.
But there you go. That's the word that immediately gets them on side. Where does he come from, your friend? Oh yes, he goes to the church on a. Oh well, that's fine. You can go. We'll drop you off and pick you up.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. So that is probably what got me off the hook, is going there with a church friend and stuff like that. And like, okay, it'll be fine. The other kids are going to this, or allowed to go to this, so I guess he should be too.
So that was then. 2026, the here and now. Coming this February is album number 4 from you. This is Joel Hoekstra, 13. And this is a third album from you guys in 5 years. Now, if you add in everything else that you've done recording-wise in that time, because you did the re-record with Whitesnake and Restless Heart, you did Iconic, you did Revolution Saints, you recorded with Schenker and Graham Bonnet. This is prolific, because that isn't even taking into account the Trans-Siberian Orchestra annual tours and everything else you've done. How on earth did you find the time to fit this in and maintain the quality? Because that's the big thing.
I just work every day. So it's just, I don't really take days off. I'm always doing something productive musically to keep moving forward, whether that be what we're doing right now, which is promotional in nature, but still I view it as moving forward. But I do have a session when we're done. So do some recording tonight, but that's just kind of how I roll every day and see where it all takes me. And certain things stick and certain things don't, But yeah, I've had a good obviously live run between, I suppose, the way that kind of built was a Kathy Richardson band locally in Chicago, yes. Jim Peterick's World Stage. Jim had founded Survivor and the Ides of March, for those that don't know, so wrote all those Survivor hits. And
he still does that, just released the World Stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jim, in a lot of ways. So what Jim would do, Kathy Richardson, she's the singer for Jefferson Starship.
Yeah.
She did really well locally because, I mean, she's a very talented woman. But I joined her band, and then Jim usually kept an eye on who was in her band and went, well, let's have him in to do some recording and whatnot. And then he started to have the world stage shows once a year, where he'd invite the guests out. So here I was, just a local Chicago musician, but when the guests would come out and you get to play their hits with them, or even sometimes their newer music, it was a very long list. Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon, Don Barnes from 38 Special, Rick Emmett from Triumph, Kip Winger, Alan Parsons. So, I mean, a lot of very talented people, and that's just the beginning of the list, honestly. It was a lot of people that I got to meet through doing that, and one of them was Kelly Kagi, the drummer from Night Ranger. So eventually that led to, I guess to sort of draw the two parallel roads happening, is Kathy had gotten a role as Janis Joplin in this show called Love Janis. It was a show about Janis Joplin. So I joined the onstage band for that in the New York run. So I moved to New York, but I was still flying back and doing the world stage gigs. So I would get off the plane and I would play these 36 songs or whatever. And they're only annual. I mean, you do it like once a year, a big blowout. And Kelly was always there. And so it just so happened that one of the years where I did it, found out that Jeff Watson was no longer playing with them and Reb Beach was kind of filling in, and just kind of talked to Kelly about maybe playing with them at some point in time. And as it turned out, like immediately thereafter, Reb needed to miss a show, I believe, to play with Winger. And so they were looking at like different options, like, well, what do we do? Cancel the gig, play with one guitar, get somebody to fill in for Reb. And Kelly said, I know this guy, from Jim Peterick's band, and he plays a gold top and he does the 8-finger technique. And so that just kind of got me my in with them, basically, through doing world stage. So Jim deserves a lot of credit for giving me that exposure to all these people locally in Chicago. And so, I'll stop there because obviously I have a very long story. But to get to the point where I was playing Love Janis 8 shows a week in New York City in an odd stage band, small theater and whatnot, nothing like insane, but I did get to meet a lot of people through doing that. And Jim Peterick's world stage kind of led to Night Ranger.
So getting this band back together is key here as well, because from day one with Dying to Live, there's been a solid core of people. Derek Sherinian, Jeff Scott Soto, Vinny Appice, Tony Franklin's been back there. Girish is back for his second stint after he was recommended to you by Frontiers a couple of years ago after his time with N Machine. So there's a family feel here. You all know each other extremely well.
Well, I think the way things are with the current model of the way a lot of these things are done, if it's going to be, for me, it's an artistic outlet. It's an opportunity to create the music, write everything in it, like the lyrics and the vocal melodies and the riffs and everything. So it's done mainly out of, I guess, an interest in having an artistic outlet, and it'll sound self-important, but like part of my legacy overall, to create my own music. So I have 3 instrumental albums that I put out initially that were totally different. One kind of fusion-y, one kind of got a little proggy, and then one was a fingerstyle acoustic CD. And those were largely instrumental, some exceptions, but largely instrumental. So what happened is, as my name built in the rock community, when I had Night Ranger and Rock of Ages and Trans-Siberian Orchestra all kind of happened in a small period of time where they were all happening at the same time, suddenly I had all these fans, and they're going to listen to my solo stuff, and they're going, well, what the heck is this? They said you should make a rock solo album, and that was something I always wanted to do. And so I thought, well, here's the opportunity, right? So it started with Tony Franklin, and he recommended Vinny, and I thought that sounded like a great idea because I was interested in doing something that was more or less like a nod to my musical roots, I guess, why I started playing the early days. And I grew up listening to Vinny's drumming, so having him on board was great. And right at that point in time, Russell Allen was joining Trans-Siberian Orchestra, so was exposed to his singing and realized this is the perfect guy. I was looking for somebody who could sing the Dio style, but also meets Lou Gramm, meets Paul Rogers. Like soulful, ballady at times, but power of Dio, was what I was, I guess, looking for overall for who would be the right fit with those musicians. And so Russ agreed to sing Dying to Live, and Jeff Scott Soto agreed to do the backing vocals, and then Russ's schedule became problematic, and Jeff basically sang lead on the second half of the record. And so that initial Joel Hoekstra's 13 had both of them singing lead, Russell and Jeff. And that kind of turned out to be the only thing that people had anything negative to say about the record. They liked it a lot, but they were like, there's two different lead singers. So when I went to make running games, the decision was kind of go with Russell singing the whole time, no matter how long it took him. But it did take him a very long time. And so when it came time for Crash of Life, I went, man, like I can't, like I'm having birthdays waiting here. I spoke with Frontiers, as you already mentioned, and they recommended Girish, who from his band, Girish and the Chronicles, I guess in more of his natural voice is a little bit more of what I would
Sebastian Bach,
a young Sebastian Bach, yeah. Kind of the high screaming and real metal, and I thought sounds great, but I really like my initial description of what I'm looking for with this. So as it turns out, he's a real chameleon. I think on Crash of Life, he delivered some incredible vocal performances. And it's actually kind of nice because it's a little different than what I was expecting out of the gate. But I feel like he's able to bring some of that stuff to the table as well. And then with this From the Fade, same thing. I mean, I think that, if anything, this album by default kind of got heavier. I think a lot of it had to do with me filling in with Accept a couple years ago when I was writing.
Very interesting. Very interesting you say that, because as I was starting to look at the album and this progression in sound over all of the albums up to where we are now, you talked about Dying to Live as just figuring out where the project was going and what you wanted it to be. Running Games focusing more on the formula, melodic hard rock, and I think you said at the time from Sabbath heavy to Foreigner melody. Crash of Life was perhaps more melodic, but here there is very distinctly a more heavier feel to this from track one. And yeah, it absolutely. You're like, wow, this is different. This is very different. It does move into a melodic arena, but the kickoff of this album is like, wow, it's like in your face. It wasn't what you were expecting, and that's a good thing, isn't it? Because who wants predictable?
I have to tip my cap to Frontiers. They've gotten behind everything I've done. I think as long as they've given me full artistic freedom, and obviously I try to keep in mind something that they'll enjoy having on their label and right within those guidelines to a degree. But I mean, I still feel like the melody is there through this record. There's always a melodic hook, but it is distinctly heavier than the other records, and I think. A lot of that's just like the theme, but because it did begin with guitar riffs, I guess I do attribute that to. I was listening to a lot of more metalish kind of riffs and playing a lot more metalish riffs with playing with Accept at the time. So some of that just kind of bled over, and I guess I was in that kind of mood, when I was writing a lot of the riffs.
Because you put this together when you were out on tour with them, didn't you? Were you writing stuff?
I feel like the riffs for this came together right after, and so I wrote the riffs like right after playing with them, and then got everything started. I believe I would need to. Man, I don't know. You know my timeline better than I do.
I've got to say though that song You Can Give was a perfect choice, because. This is another real skill that people don't realize, do they? About being a musician, being in a band, being a rock star, if you like, is when you've got all of these songs together, is getting the running order right. And this one was a lot of similar. It definitely got more of a focused sound, like Running Games did.
Running Games was the other complaint I suppose I received about Dying to Live, the only slight request I received from Frontiers was that they thought stylistically it was a little all over the map. And that we did leave the heaviest track off of that one. Killer Be Killed became a bonus track, and that was very metal. And I had gone from very metal to songs like Start Again or What We Believe that were not heavy. So there was quite a span there, but I like that. Personally, I like that. But I focused Running Games a little bit more for what they were asking for. And then Crash of Life, I feel like floated back into a little bit more diversity. Like there's songs that like You're Right for Me that are almost kind of Zeppelin-y, bluesy. There's songs like Don't Have Words that are AC/DC-ish. So I'd say a little bit, but just trying to wear my influences on my sleeve. That's all I'm trying to do with these. And so when it comes to this, it steered heavier, it veered heavier. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I guess we'll find out,
And a great ending, right? Because your time with Whitesnake and David Coverdale and so on, the way that he used to structure albums and put albums together, there was always a softer feel to the close of the album where there was things coming, Fare Thee Well, and stuff like that. Yeah. That you would think, I really like this, and it's a softer finish. And like I said to you, I only got the album a couple of hours ago, but there were two tracks, The End of Me and Quite the Ride, which were two of my favourite tracks on the whole album, actually.
Cool. Well, The Enemy is the heaviest one, I think, on the record, probably, yes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Just edging out the opening track for that. But again, there's just when you think after listening to the opening two tracks that this is going to be a really heavy album, and then it steers back to a more melodic feel. But what there isn't is anything that's predictable. When you put something on, you know what's coming, really.
Yeah.
But there's twists and turns, and it keeps you listening, and that is ultimately what the game is, isn't it? You want people to listen more often and longer, and there's a lot to enjoy, I thought.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I really haven't heard a whole lot. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback on the record outside of the two singles that are up right now. So as far as people doing a full-length listen to the record, it sounds like you're about as close as we've gotten here. Like you've obviously had to skip around a little bit with your 25 minutes that you've had. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Yeah, and regardless, like it's made as, like I said, more of an artistic statement, or I guess a portrait in time, like where I was, like artistically speaking, and not really a money-making operation for me. It's more a labor of love and just something that's done for the. I love all the gigs I've had and everything. That's great to be like, man, Joel, you've been able to play with Night Ranger and Whitesnake and Trans-Siberian Orchestra and Cher, and I've had certainly a lot of great gigs, and that's really cool. But it's we all got in this to make our own music, and so
absolutely.
I feel like it's necessary along the line. I mean, my instrumental albums when I was beginning, those were being made when I didn't have all these great gigs. And so once the great gigs happened, then it became, I was known as that guy. And people really didn't you can't pay them to listen to those instrumental albums, those early ones. I mean, you just can't. So there's some open-minded musicians that know about it, but that like it, but in general, I can post those and people just don't listen. They just like ignore that's even, let's just ignore that occurred. But so, and look, I like to make a difference between Joel Hoekstra, which those were, and Joel Hoekstra's 13, that's my rock side project. There's a lot of people that don't understand that. They'll refer to it as like the album name and say like, yeah, I have 13. And it's like, well, Joel Hoekstra's 13 is like that's my project. That's my rock recording project.
You talked about yourself being the dictator with the writing and the riffs and putting the whole thing together. production, Chris Collier, part of the family as well, who's been there since day one, and he's got a fabulous resume. I mean, it's a who's who, isn't it, of the rock world? And he worked a lot with you with Whitesnake as well. He worked with Mick Mars, Lynch Mob's recent album, and Unbreakable, which was a great album with Dave Ellefson and Jeff Scott Soto. So again, having somebody there in engineering and production that you don't have to explain everything to all the time, but just instinctively knows what needs to be done. It relieves a lot of pressure.
Well, Chris is fantastic. He's very fast, and he everything he does sounds great. But I'm a big pain in his ass because I'm like I micromanage, and I'll give him like 10,000 notes on a song and then every listen through that list will get shorter and shorter until they disappear, and I finally decide like, okay, I think I can let go of this. But that's typically the way we work, and he knows that, and we get on great. I give him all the credit in the world because he's able to deal with listening to me and all my requests. But he's a very talented guy, and he's really engineered everything I've done since I found him on Dying to Live, and he came to me as a recommendation from Jeff Pilson, who obviously knows what he's talking about, and gave me a good partner to work with throughout that. And that includes like even down to the stuff I was doing during COVID, like a lot of the collab jams, the version of Abracadabra that I did with Arnel Pineda from Journey and Billy Sheehan, that's up online and got a gazillion views. I mean, 2.5 million on Arnel's channel and over a million on mine. It's like over 3.5 million people have watched that, which is incredible to me. We just did that for fun during COVID. Just nobody made a dime off any of that. We didn't release the song, nothing. I guess the other stuff he's done for me, Stormbringer, it was another collab jam. I did a version with Dino Jalusic, and
I heard that.
And that's where I kind of reunited with Virgil Donati, who drummed on my instrumental records. And Virgil's like this just absolute virtuoso phenom, from another galaxy level player. And so having him on that was great fun to reconnect with him. And Virgil is definitely more solidly in the fusion world. He was playing with Alan Holdsworth, et cetera. So having him in and playing a Deep Purple song was like, awesome.
But what we've got here, right? So we've got a great product here. Now, back in the day, it would be followed by a tour videos, but today's market completely different. Tours need huge money to finance, and then there's a lining everybody's diary. But there are the odd festivals and the hard rock cruises to do. So, is there any chance that you could put a band together if you couldn't get all the guys involved with the record out to go out and play some of this stuff live?
Yeah, I would say never, but it's very challenging, as you said. And the thing is, you need to work out ahead with stuff like that too. And I do feel like financially, I would lose my ass, like putting it out there, quite frankly. I mean, it's just like, we would draw, I think we would get some people out. Now getting Girish over from India too is another thing. And then getting everybody's schedules coordinated so they're not booked up with else. We did do one show on the Monsters of Rock cruise, as you mentioned, so it has happened, and that was, I believe at the time, only Dying to Live had been made when we played that set. And Russell and Jeff Scott Soto were both on the cruise, so it's that obviously for me was like, hey, the lead singers are there. I should probably try and just get Vinny on. And as it turned out, Tony wasn't available, but my friend Dave Z from TSO, the late great Dave Z. He was our bassist. He was not only a great bass player, but good backing vocalist too. So paid off having him. He really did his homework. I mean, we went in and rehearsed once and did a show. So, I mean, it was like to get backing vocals together. And not only that, I should definitely mention Paul Taylor too, from everybody, but known from Winger, I suppose, probably the most. But Paul's a great multi-instrumentalist, so handled the keyboards and second guitar on that and sang backing vocals. So he really helped it immensely in that performance too. But it was cool. It was a fun set to be able to mix up with some validity, playing Black Sabbath or Dio and Whitesnake in the set with Joel Hoekstra's 13. So if people were having a harder time sitting and listening to music that they're completely unfamiliar with, to be able to mix in stuff like that and hear it done well, I think was a lot of fun. It was a fun show.
The great thing about being you, right, is that there appears to be very little chance, if ever, you're going to get bored. Now, there have been teasing posts about new product coming this year from Revolution Saints, Dean Castronova, Jeff Pilson and you. And also, there have been the odd post hinting at things maybe with Iconic, which was a great album. I mean, that really didn't get the credit and the coverage that deserved. Nathan James and Marco Mendoza, Tommy Aldridge, and Michael Sweet. That album, Second Skin, wasn't it? Was an amazing album. So, what's the situation with those? Are you releasing new material with Revolution Saints or Iconic, or have you got anything planned this year?
I mean, I've done the guitars in full for both of those, so I think we're just waiting on mix and then just promo for each. And as far as timeline goes, it's a bit up in the air still. I think we've maybe solidified that with Revolution Saints and are still working on that with Iconic. As far as getting everybody
still the same band, Iconic, still the same lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible lineup. I mean, Tommy Aldridge is just. I mean, you can't take your eyes off Tommy Aldridge, can you? When he's out there on stage, but Nathan's voice needs to be heard more.
Yeah, Nathan's incredible. I mean, everybody in all these projects everybody you're speaking about are very talented people. I feel very blessed to be making music with them all, and that's and to have Frontiers give me the opportunity to do that. Not only that, but those guys have been really cool with me from day one with this Joel Hoekstra's 13 thing, in terms of helping me, I guess, fulfill my vision of releasing this with some success, to have some people hear it, not just have it be something I make, and goes largely undone, but giving it a really artistic freedom with it, and just say, no, they've pretty much liked everything I've recorded. I've never had a song where they've said, not that one. They've been supportive of me, in short. And they've been supportive of me with bringing me in on those projects as well, and giving me, I suppose, more exposure and more opportunity to make music and meet more people. So they've been very good to me.
Just before we conclude, I've got to mention the retirement of David Coverdale and Whitesnake. A bittersweet moment, really, because I thought we might see one more album out of him. But you must have some fantastic memories of being involved with what was one of the all-time greats. I mean, he just was. He had it all, really. I mean, you joined up in 2014, didn't you, when they were prepping to go on the Purple tour? So
recording the album, this is the earliest. So it was like joining the band and then go right into recording the album. Yeah.
I mean, what was it like when you walked through this? I mean, you were coming out of what a great band in Night Ranger, but Night Ranger were primarily an American band who, the coverage around Europe and so on was maybe not as it should have been. There was, there was never much promotion, but Whitesnake was a real different animal, and the catalogue, and you're walking straight in to play all these amazing Deep Purple classics, and it was the first time you went out on tour as well in Europe, wasn't it? With them, and with
Whitesnake,
Def Leppard and Black Star Riders. So what was it like for you meeting the DC for the first time?
So I actually met David one time where Night Ranger opened for Whitesnake. So we met very briefly, just said hello. I forget, I must have been introduced by Doug Aldrich, because Doug and I have always been friends-ish, He's been a very friendly guy over the years. We've kept in touch. And I think when we did that show together, he maybe introduced me, said hello, and that's about it. I mean, nothing much. I doubt we made much small talk. I can't really remember. That was a year or two before 2014. So we're getting, a little far back. But then as far as joining, DC and I clicked right away. I felt like he was just looking for talented, inspirational people that were going to show the proper respect and show up and be professional and whatnot. And I feel like I got a lot of that out of my system by that point in time. I went through some period of my career where I had a lot of fun with drinking and whatnot and hanging out. But I by the time I joined Whitesnake, I was a little bit more focused on the music is what matters to me, and obviously the right working environment, being with the right people. But we clicked right away. We got along.
What was it
great.
like when you landed in the UK and played for the first time? What was the significant difference, if indeed there was any difference, to playing in Europe to playing in the US?
I think that the UK is, it's just like with Night Ranger when you'd go to Northern California and play. It's like, that's where you start to figure out that national acts or international acts still kind of have home bases, where it's like, oh, the shows matter more here. I see the way it goes. Like when we play Northern California, the gig and with Night Ranger would always be more important. And same with Whitesnake. When you go to the UK, it was all of a sudden everything was like the audiences were bigger and there was a little more energy, and it was like, oh, okay, I see the way it goes.
You came back and had a big involvement in that final album, Flesh and Blood, and co-wrote some of the classics on there. Good to see you again. Trouble Is Your Middle Name was a great song. Gonna Be All Right. Hey You. Well, I Never was another one of yours. After All, which was one of those unexpected tracks in there. And If I Can't Have You. I mean, that was a significant involvement in what was, as we now know, the final album. It was a great album to sign off with.
I think David had put out Unzipped.
Yes.
Before Flesh and Blood, and Unzipped was something where he had showed me the general idea of what he had for. Oh my goodness, I'm spacing now on the name of the ballad that we talked about. But what is it? The oh my goodness, really?
On Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
After All.
After All. My goodness, I'm so sorry. So After All was the first song that we wrote together, where David writes on a little acoustic, and so I've got this, and so I kind of dressed it up a bit and maybe stuck some additional parts on it. I mean, he had the idea was there. It was really David's. I forget what little sections I wrote of it, but technically that was kind of funny because you join a band like Whitesnake, you picture the first song you co-write together being like, slamming like hard rock track. The first thing he and I wrote together was After All. But it wasn't too long after that. I think might have been when I was out during that. We were out there specifically for me to do some stuff for Unzipped. That may or may not have been on there. I can't remember, but we did a lot of my acoustic versions of a lot of stuff, and maybe I forget. I think it's all Doug on Unzipped, but we did a lot of work with that stuff, with the acoustics. And then there was a day where he just said, let's, get out the Les Paul and let's like plug you in and let's enough of this acoustic stuff. And we just had a metronome going, and I was riffing, and that's I think where we came. Trouble Is Your Middle Name came off of that. I was playing that, and he was guiding me towards what he liked with it.
And he did the videos as well. I mean, because the videos very tongue-in-cheek. I mean, people maybe don't quite get how good his sense of humor is, actually, because he does have a great sense of humor, doesn't he?
Oh, DC's got an amazing sense of humor. Amazing, yeah. I mean, it is. It is funny.
Shut up and kiss me.
Yeah, shut up and kiss me. But I mean, it was very Whitesnake, the name and title.
Such a great track.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, my time with David, and we still have a great camaraderie. He still texts on the band thread on a regular basis. I mean, every day or
What
two.
was your favorite song playing live of theirs when you used to go out on tour? What was the one that you, or was there one? Here I Go Again, Still of the Night.
There wasn't. I can give you like my favorite like magical moment with David that I feel like I had during the making of the Purple album. Most of the acoustic stuff went down to me playing the version of Sail Away that's on there, or Soldier of Fortune. And so when I went to do the basic guitars for Soldier of Fortune, like the initial pass, the foundation track to layer upon and whatnot, David also sang. And most of what is on the record is what he sang right there in that pass with me. So it's kind of a cool moment. It was just two of us playing, me playing acoustic guitar and him singing. And that was kind of like a moment where I went, you know what, this is special right now. He's a legendary guy, and to have the opportunity, and then even as it would turn out, there was a mix of that later on that came out that was just the two of us were shown in the video with string sections. So there is like a video that's out that's Soldier of Fortune with just Joel Hoekstra on the Hook City strings, I think, with David. So that's the kind of thing that I just go like, I mean, would I have ever seen that as a kid? No, absolutely not.
I got that. Lastly, we've taken your career up to date. So where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? I mean, is there anybody that you would love to collaborate with that you haven't collaborated with yet? Is there something you'd like to do which is completely different, to, the rock and melodic hard rock?
When it comes to music, I just try to move forward every day and work every day. And it's funny how life kind of has a way of putting you where you belong with all these things. So as long as you remain active, and when things do get inactive, you create action. It's very easy to do. I mean, any of us at any point in time could say, you know what, why not? I think I'll make another collab jam video. That stuff was done out of downtime, which is funny because that's the type of stuff with Dino Jalusic, the Jane cover, that stuff's got millions of views, and like
great track as well.
All of those things. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I did it that night alone in my apartment and thinking I was tired from teaching 6 lessons. And I was like, I probably could have done better. Then I remember thinking, a lot of people are probably going to see this though, but had I foreseen that millions, I probably would have like gone at it a little bit harder. I probably had a better pass in me on that Jane. I feel like I just was like, I feel like I settled a little bit on it, but nonetheless, people will like it a lot. So, you never know. You never know where you're going to end up. I guess is my point. If you just stay open to working with people and creating, some stuff sticks and has a way of like pulling you in and going, this is a great opportunity here. And next thing you know, but the main thing is staying busy with music and working with it. If you shun it, then I think it shuts down in a hurry, So my thing is to stay active and stay busy with it all the time.
Well, that was the always engaging Joel Hoekstra. The album From the Fade is out on February the 27th this year. Look out for that. And as we said, look out for further updates from Revolution Saints and Iconic through the year. 2 great bands with new albums on the horizon. And that is it for this edition of the show. Don't forget, head over to the website or YouTube or Facebook channels and pages to catch up with anything you might have missed, including of late great features we did with Graham Bonnet, with George Lynch, with Atomic Rooster, and the legendary British blues rock band 10 Years After. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to having your company again next time out. For the moment, though, from me, Tim Caple. Bye-bye for now.